honor of HSI and AANAPISI Week, we have a series of graduate school panels. And so the Center of Academic Enrichment and Outreach college programs would like to welcome you all and our esteemed panelists to our graduate school conversation panel. So our graduate school panelists will be discussing the richness that our diversity brings to the university community through Yosso's community cultural wealth lens. These conversations are told through the lived experiences of former college program students from the Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander community, and also the Latinx community. And with this, I will ask the panelists to do a brief introduction of themselves that include their names, their pronouns, the year that they are in graduate school, and what field that they are pursuing.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Jan Cruz Espinoza. I use she, her, sha pronouns, and I am fourth year in the PhD in higher education program. So if you don't know what that is, basically I study colleges and universities across the US. And I also study program evaluation and assessment.
Hello, my name is Pauline Tamala, and I use the pronoun she and her, and I am a second year DMA program, or PhD, but in music is Doctoral of Musical Arts. And I'm studying here to be a vocal performance. I'm hoping to sing in the future in the classical operatic world or teach.
Hi everyone, my name is Crizel Omotoy. I also use the she, her, hers pronouns, and this is my first year in the MS accounting program.
Hello, my name is Amanda Alabangbang, and I attended UNLV. Now I'm currently a P1 student at Roseman University in Henderson, and I'm studying to become a pharmacist.
Great.
Oh, and my pronouns are she and her, hers.
So again, my name is Judith Hagos, and I use she, her pronouns. And so before we get started with the questions, I just kind of want to unpack Yosso's community cultural wealth lens, because it does have 6 areas of focus. And so these 6 forms of cultural capital reframe the lens in which students of color experience college. That includes aspirational, linguistic, familial, social, navigational, and resistance. And so Yosso's model explores the talents and strengths, experiences that students of color bring with them to their college environment. So with that, I will start with my first question, which pertains to familial capital. So as defined, familial capital is cultural knowledge obtained from your family, your kin, as it relates to higher ed. So if you could, who do you call family and community, and what are some of the values you grew up with that have shaped your career goals?
So I attended UNLV. My last semester was this past spring of 2022, and I was born and raised here in Las Vegas. So my family immigrated from the Philippines around the 1980s and 90s. So we're fairly established here, especially in Las Vegas. And it's not just, it's my extended family. So all of us are practically here, predominantly like paternally. So both of my parents came from the Philippines, and my mom is the only one from her immediate family to have the opportunity to come to America. So, and through my family, I was able to know the importance of hard work and sacrifice. I know that, like, as a minority, and even like coming from the Asian American, we're typically seen as a model minority. And growing up, especially in the the areas of Las Vegas that weren't like professionally developed, it was very hard because we received a lot of discrimination, but we also knew a lot of like inclusiveness and diversity. And so growing up, I was always friends with my family taught me the importance of being sensitive. So like recognizing that our lives are not just meant for ourselves, and that was shown like through the way that we would practice as a family, which has deep values within like Roman Catholicism and the importance of family being as a core to society. So my family, the history, like educationally, my dad received a PhD in business administration, and then he further enhanced with customer satisfaction. But my mom didn't have the opportunity to pursue a college degree, so I kind of got the best of both worlds. Like, I know the importance of how much education can further you, but also if you don't pursue secondary education, you have to work hard regardless. And that you can see through, I don't know if you guys can like envision this, but like picture a triangle and then like entry level jobs. There's so many people applying to those, but as you gradually increase, like bachelor's, graduate level, it minimizes, and it minimizes especially for those who are minorities. And so my parents always pushed us. I grew up with 2 older siblings, and they were both boys, and I was the only girl, so I was kind of spoiled, but I wasn't really negated to not know what sacrifice was. And pursuing medicine came from my family because despite all of like the blessings coming here to America, we also received a lot of like genetic history that debilitated us, not only like with chronic hypertension and diabetes and all of these things that really at the molecular level has impacted us in the way that we live our daily lives. But there were also many hardships that we had to face, especially attending here at UNLV, because it's like academia, like pursuing biology and medicine, it's a science. So I was often discouraged, but at the end of the day, what I realize is what's meant for me will never leave me. So, and your family is always going to be there for you, so regardless.
To answer that question, to me, families and communities are similar to me, for they play a role of support system. And this minority groups, it's always hard to find a support system that could extend from where you are, from where you can see, from the wall that you see every single day. It's almost always hard to see it, but knowing that you have a support system, which to me, families and community, and you have to build a community around you and your family. Support system is crucial, for it is defined as a network of people who provide an individual with practical and emotional support. And then to me, practical comes in different forms, such as both families or those that you choose to be in your own community listens to us, help us to understand the process to things that we do not capture at first, and gather relevant information that we would need, as well as how to negotiate for improvement in areas that we're lacking of. That being said, those practical support systems are my parents, which they help me financially and motivational, my siblings, my professors, which they help me to tutor and with extracurricular activities, the counselors, graduate coordinators, which they will help you with your experiences and guidance to graduate on time, as well as stay on course to get the best out of your degree, or your colleagues, coworkers, to motivate you to collaborate in homework, presentations, and other schoolwork to achieve the ultimate goals, to pass the class and learn something from it. And as well as students, if you're teaching, last semester I got the opportunity to teach as part of my GA. It goes as a two-way learning process. You will learn as you teach, and it is practical, since you have to assure that the materials you provide will aid and understandable to the student. At the same time, your community also aids you with emotional support. Your families, your colleagues, your professors, your coworkers will always be with you in the journey. There is a saying that I heard when I first got here to the US, and it really made an impact on my life to keep me going. Tough times will end, but tough people will last. And I'll repeat that again. Tough times will end, but tough people will last. Emotionally, this quote gave me strength, stability, and yet there's hope that I will always make it to the end, only with courage and perseverance. So these two values In support, you'll get practical and emotionally values have helped me to shape my career goals, and I am now able to achieve many goals. And I believe all of you will be able to, and it's crucial to recognize these values and do not take them for granted.
I'll just reintroduce myself. So I'm Christine Jan Cruz Espinoza of House Espinoza and Dela Cruz, the eldest child and only daughter of Elvie and Arnell Espinoza, the first to be born in the US, Queen of Naps, hoarder of library books, breaker of chains. So if you didn't quite catch that Game of Thrones reference, I started with that because for me, family and community, it's both blood and chosen family and community that spans different parts of the Pacific, at least for me. So for me, I call Carson, California, that's nestled in the South Bay of Los Angeles County, home, as well as Honolulu, Hawaii, home. That's where my brother is. This is where my community of women of color, faculty and admin and staff who've really pushed and believed in me to get me to where I am. That's hope as far as California goes. Yeah, that's where my mixed status family has now come to, and I kind of, it resonates with me. I just wanted to listen to my fellow panelists because some things that parts of my identity that I don't always talk about is parts of my family are undocumented, and that's not something that you think about for an Asian American family or whatever. So a value that ties all of this together is this idea of head down and be humble. And I wrestle with that now that I'm older, now that I'm in this doctoral program, because there are things that I'm not so happy about. And I can't always have my head down and to just accept those things. So even though, those are values that were told to me or taught to me, I'm kind of rethinking that now.
Growing up, or actually I'm also Filipino like my other fellow panelists here, but I was born and raised in Saipan. So when I tell people where's Saipan, they're like, where's that at? So it's a pretty small island. It's about only 11 miles long. So it's a pretty close-knit community. And so I call those people from back home also my family, because in a class, it was basically a teacher and less than 20 students. So we all grew close together. So in addition to my immediate family, they were also my family, and they also pushed me because back home we only had one community college. So that wasn't it helps, but it wasn't the ideal education you would get if you wanted to pursue a higher education, like a bachelor's or a graduate program. And so the people that I grew up with, we all spread out our wings. We all flew out from the island to the mainland, and our teachers, our counselors also were very observant of us, and they always mentored us throughout, from elementary to high school. They knew you could be starting from one grade and then you move on to middle school, and they'll still catch you on the street hey, how are you doing, what's your plan? So I felt that was really reassuring for me, they're checking up on me and all that. And with my parents, they also immigrated from the Philippines. My father only finished an associate's degree, and my mother finished a bachelor's degree, so they really emphasized the importance of education. So it was their dream for me to pursue a graduate program. So they were happy that I got into the graduate program at UNLV. And so it was their dream, because in Philippines, they had to go through so many struggles just to get to school. They talked about how they would have to climb over I think it was mountains or some sort, but it was a rocky terrain that they had to go through just to get to school. And so they emphasized the importance of free education, because they didn't have that. And so when they saw the opportunity for me to grab that, they said, you better finish your school, get your degree. And it's also their dream to come here to the mainland, because when they moved to Saipan, yes, it's a U.S. territory, but they didn't have any green card or any U.S. passport. So they were only working on a immigrant status. So it was difficult for them they were always faced with uncertainty of am I gonna get to work in the next year, or is USCIS gonna renew my papers? So it really humbled me, because with my parents always facing the uncertainty, but they never showed it to me. They remained strong and always put my education in the first of their thoughts. So it's very, my family's always going to be at the forefront, and the values I learned from them is always going to stick through me, and it's what's gotten me here. And so, yeah.
So I'm going to move on to social capital. And so for the audience, for the folks that don't know what social capital is essentially how one uses their community resources and connections that they already have to build networks of support towards their goals. And so in preparation for graduate school, or you guys are all currently in graduate school, what are some of the organizations and opportunities that you have taken advantage of to help you with your pursuits in graduate school?
So it was a funny coincidence because when the pandemic happened, I flew back home to Saipan, and I didn't have any job, and then I flew back here when classes were back online. And I was looking for a student job, and I went on Handshake, and I was like, student worker positions. And I saw the graduate college, and this was, they were looking for a student worker position. So I was like, okay, I'll apply to this without the initial thought of thinking like, oh, I'll go to this because I want to go into grad school. So I applied for the position, got accepted as student worker for the graduate college in the admissions team. And from that, I didn't really have any thought to go into grad school immediately. But with the people that I was surrounded with, it's like my supervisor, my colleagues, they all recommended why not go to grad school, because it's at UNLV. First of all, you finish your bachelor's and you just go straight into the master's program at UNLV, so it's not a big of a change. And the programs here are also very competitive as well. They have a lot of good programs, a lot of good opportunities that come along with the graduate program. So that convinced me to go to graduate school. So I think it was a great experience, even though it was a coincidence that working as a student worker in the grad college pushed me to become a grad student as well, because of my supervisors, my colleagues, and the admissions team. So you never know the people around you. They'll push you for bigger things.
And in terms of social capital, I always thought about that one, or I don't know if it's okay. Well, the people that you hang out with most frequently, you often become. So with social capital and with Las Vegas as an entertainment capital, you always have to be mindful with who you hang out with and who you spend your time with. So graduate school and traditional med school route was always in my mind, for a good amount of time. And so then you have to bear that in mind, okay, if I want to go to med school, this is what you already have to have your plan out. Those that don't follow through with their plans, those that lack perseverance, turns out they weren't really that disciplined, you have to be in mind, just covering with familial, you are a part of a family, you're a part of a whole, but you're also your own individual. So being as a daughter of a family, you can't compare the needs of what a mother needs, because you guys don't have the same roles. And so pursuing medicine and becoming a pharmacist, I actually applied on a whim, because attending at UNLV, it really discouraged me, especially with the whole pandemic. If I become a physician, if I become a practitioner, it seems meaningless, because the whole entire structure of American healthcare, it's kind of falling. And we saw that during COVID. And we saw that especially as a minority, how people weren't getting adequate access, those that lived in India couldn't get a vaccine, that those were at risk. But here we are, we're just I don't know if I want to wear a mask today, but millions of people are dying. And that's the beauty of medicine. It's cleaning up the mess that others make because they can't really help themselves, or they don't have enough self-love or self-care. So that's where we have to step in. And with social capital, my parents were really religious growing up, so we were that traditional Sunday family. All of us would go despite all of our extracurricular activities. Like, it's kind of like dinner at 6, like we have to be punctual, and it kind of routine creates like structure and order, and we're creatures of habit. So you all here attending at UNLV, you have this degree in mind you're trying to pursue, and you're encountering all of these people, whether it's faculty members or even just students, so you can all just collaborate with one another. And so that's what I practically did, and everything that I've done in my life has led me this far, regardless of treating my professors as mentors, because they're really beneficial, because they were students at one point in their lives as well. And attending here at UNLV, I was fortunate enough to be granted the Engelstadt Scholars Program. So they're with the Center of Justice and Diversity. So they tailored their values towards scholarship, leadership, and service. And so they would pay us theoretically to go to school, but we would offer community service hours, especially to those that are in low-income populations here specifically at Las Vegas. And I was placed at Spread the Word Nevada, that tailored their mission and values towards education. So I would provide literacy programs, and it would be difficult, and it was humbling, especially even in the midst of the pandemic, that when I would mentor kids after they reopened the schools, I would mentor first graders. And just to be like at a collegiate level, mentoring students that are like 5 or 6 years old, they didn't know what school was without a mask. They didn't know what it was to encounter another student without it, or like, why are we, like, really just, like some sort of in the matrix, and I don't know how to get myself out. And so that's where we have to step in, like, it's gonna be fine, like there's always like light at the end of the tunnel. And like, that's, I guess, the beauty of COVID. Like, I mean, it still hurts that many people are suffering through that, and like death is inevitable, but like goodness always triumphs over evil. And so then with social capital, it's good to always be mindful to who you hang out with, regardless of your friends. And if your friends are sharing the same goals that you have in mind, or finding more friends and reaching out to those that you want to connect with. So yeah.
An extension of that same idea upon social capital. Who in here have heard of that phrase, it's not what you know, but it's who you know? There you go, I see a couple. Okay, so in my field in music, time has changed, and we've moved on we lived through different generations. And in this age and time, it's no longer, it's still what you know, but it's more of who you know. And that's what got me to this school. Not knowing that prior to pandemic, I was in a summer program in Austria, and I met all kinds of faculty from here in the US, and I was in Los Angeles. And I met this guy who teaches here. He's been here for more than probably me living on Earth, but he has changed just with one phrase. I went to a coaching, and he said to me, and I was singing, and he said, "Why are you selfish?" And I was like, okay, if only there's a hole here, I would just fall, because that's embarrassing for someone to say it straight to your face, right? And I said, I don't know what you're trying to say. And he said, you're committed as an artist. Be the artist. It's your responsibility to be who you are and transform a message across. If you have talent, fine, but use that talent to transform a message. So that transformed my own perspective of things, and that became, and then that phrase of it's who you know, not what you know. And then pandemic happened. I almost didn't want to go to continue my studies, but it dawned on me that I have to do something with my life. I have to do something with the gift I've been given, whether other people view it as good or bad. It's all about you and what you view yourself. So to say that this quote may look odd to some people, and other people may look at it as like something that's off, but you'll eventually reap the harvest that you grow. If you think about this, and if you apply it to different programs, that whatever program that you're in, I hope that it could be a starting point for some of you, that it's not too late to know yourself better, because you know who you are better. And if you love yourself first, then you can get out and do stuff for others. To go back somewhere in the question, I kind of answered this in try to keep it well-rounded. One of the panelists mentioned working on campus. I myself found an on-campus job when I started my master's program. And I always look for something that will aid me to be able to graduate. And as a master's student, I got into my graduate program. The music program coordinator was new, so we were all trying to find information together. And I heard something that was very scary to me, that I know I won't be able to get away from it or get out of, is you have to write a thesis. And my first question was like, who's gonna help me? And then no one said, oh yeah, the office. Which office? And it got me so curious that I started looking for an on-campus job. And then before I knew it, I ended up in the graduate studies office under the evaluation team, to which this team will be the one that will accept your thesis and push it through to ScholarWorks. So that to say, social capital, I didn't know what I was getting into, but I expanded my horizon and kept an open mind. And I was able to graduate on time and knew exactly what I have to do, and was able to aid those who followed after me. And so get to know people in your major, but do not forget that there are other departments on campus that you'll be able to get through, that you have to get through to be able to graduate from school.
So for me, I was a double major in biology and anthropology when I was an undergraduate student. But the funny thing is, I actually changed my major 7 times when I was an undergraduate student, so ask me about that later. And, you know, I was listening to something that was said earlier in this for this question, and I didn't actually have a plan. I was pre-med for a long time, and it was actually when I started working as an undergraduate student at the university. I was a new student orientation leader. I also worked as a peer academic advisor, and in both those student affairs units, the late Dr. Nikki Labarios, my very first day as a peer academic advisor, he said, "Christine, somehow, some way, we're gonna get you an education." And I'm like, no, I'm gonna be a doctor, like a medical physician, right? But you know, that was one seed that was planted. And then Mandy Westfall-Senda, the director of New Student Orientation at the time, also said a similar sentiment for me to think about, you know, a different graduate program in education. And of course, I mean, with where I'm at now, I'm sort of, you know, chuckling to myself because that's where I am now, and they saw that in me. And for me, that social capital was getting to be surrounded by other Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander admin, faculty, staff at my previous institution, which was also a dual designated minority serving institution. So the University of Hawaii at Manoa is both a Native Hawaiian serving institution and an Asian American Pacific Islander serving institution, right? So although I was not a program participant, I mean, just the very fact that that institution had so many faculty, admin, staff who they didn't necessarily share my same identity as being Filipina or Pinay or whatever, but they were still like very willing to share with me, you know, their insight. Because I was sort of bumbling around. I had changed my major so many times. I was involved on campus, what have you. And you know, that is the community resource. It was the richness of those conversations, those talk story sessions, because honestly, I don't think I would really be here without them. So yeah, I think when I think about myself as an undergrad and then going even into my master's program, it was in those conversations, being willing to listen, and you know, taking that food for thought.
Moving on, we're going to talk about aspirational capital. And so aspirational capital is the ability to envision your future beyond your current circumstances and work towards pursuing a graduate degree in terms of our current panel discussion. So what are some of your convictions and motivations that keep you going, and where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
A conviction or motivation, I'm going to just read it. When I was thinking about this, for me, I think of Dr. Angela Davis. Angela Davis is quoted saying, "I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept." So this is a play off of that serenity prayer. And I think about, like, something that I said earlier was a value that was passed on to me was head down, be humble. But now I am challenging that because I have a voice. I have this privilege of being in a PhD program now, and being in spaces where I could offer suggestions for change. And I think that's the thing that keeps me going.
For me, there are three things that are motivational: is overcoming the barriers. Grew up in the Pacific Island and moved here to further studies, and being away from leaving your home body to be in a different land, it's like the first step, overcoming a barrier because you want to have a future and be passionate about that. I found passion of music, and here I am, and then continuing finding happiness over that. Really something that will keep me motivated, and envisioning my life in the next 5 years. Would like to have my own career, being able to teach at a collegiate level, and go back home and start a music school to give those people a chance to further their study if they're willing.
One major conviction in my life, it's something from my dad. He's always said to me when I was younger, you've gotten this far, why would you stop now? So I've always kept that in my mind, because with the career path I'm going for with accounting, you need that 150 credits. It's either you double major or you take a master's program. And then after that program, you have to go through an exam to get that license. And so it's a long path to go through the career I want. So I always keep that in my mind. If you're already this far, why stop now? And in 5 years, I envision myself as a CPA, hopefully. And then I do love community service. I've always been volunteering since I was young. So I do hope to work for a firm that values that community service, that social work. So I do plan to integrate that with my career.
An aspiration of mine and a personal conviction was growing up in an Asian American household. It's kind of like we always had to forget the needs of ourselves and always look at the benefit of another person, like really true sacrifice, true love. And it wasn't until undergrad that I really had like a major conviction. I was like, I've been living under someone else's shadow. Like, what do I actually want to do with my life? And it's not until that, or like until you're 18 to 25 years of age, like especially in a pandemic, because you're just by yourself in your room. It's like, what do I want to do? And so overcoming, like experiencing a lot of loss and detrimental health states during COVID, I was able to really like think this through. And so I realized that no one else is going to do it for you. Like, you have to be your own best advocate. You have to believe in yourself, because even if someone else doesn't believe in you, you have to do it, because there's only one of you. Like, you're fabricated into this life, into this family, in this institution. Like, we were really made for more, and like true sacrifice and true love, it's to give the benefit of another. So like, what are we doing as an individual that can help better society, help better the community? And so hopefully in 5 years, I'll finish these rough 3 years of pharmacy school. And growing up here in Las Vegas and our family being established, I really had the aspirations of building our own hospital. And I know that's very ambitious, but we have the resources, and if it's really meant for me, then so be it. I mean, dreams are only dreams. Like, you have to make it a reality somehow. And like being a doctor, it's like, wow, I can actually pursue becoming in medicine. Like, it's actually, only a class away, only a handshake away. Like, I can actually do it, and it only happens when you can believe in yourself. So
the last two questions, I'm going to combine those. They're based on navigational capital and resistance capital. But I don't want to overlook linguistic capital. So linguistic capital is defined as intellectual or social skills attained through a collection of experiences that you bring through language, history, and experiences that may not be shared elsewhere. So what are some sayings or pieces of wisdom that have impacted you? And what are some of the different audiences that you know how to speak to and how to connect with?
I mentioned before, tough times will end, but tough people will last. I have found mugs. I've found wall decorator that have this. And at the end of the day, when I go home, sometimes I'm like, I'm done. The day was just there. It's not happening. But I see that and I said, what if I'm that tough person? And what if I wake up tomorrow and this tough time has been ended? And so every day it's a renewal of reminder to myself of this. And I also make agreement with myself with this quote, bloom wherever you are planted. That it's hard to do, but you have to. And you can't talk yourself out of a tough situation. Just make the most of it and then bloom. And then be a good filter, because that's tough. Don't take in everything. Take in what you need and leave what you don't need. Stay on course and run your own lane.
I think about the saying, to go fast, go alone, to go further, go together. And as I reflect on the different pieces of my life that have gotten me to this PhD program at this moment and the opportunities that I'm given, it's really a building of the different people that I've been able to be in contact with, from new student orientation to the other parts of student affairs, to NASPA, to the community of AANAPISI scholars. I think it's important that we recognize, like, we are not, when you're crossing the stage when you graduate, you're not the only one crossing that. You bring with you your community, your family, your friends who really helped you get to that point. So that's what I'm going to leave.
Like I said before, it's always like how my father's words would always reiterate in my mind. It's like, you've already gone this far, why stop now? So I don't want to like look back and think like, oh damn, I could have done this, or oh damn, I missed that because I was in a hurry. So I always think like it's not about the race, it's about the journey and the people that you meet along those times, those hard times, those easy times. So always value those people around you. It's not a race, it's about the experiences that you get out of it, the memories and the lessons that you've got out of these moments.
Linguistically, or it would probably be change is it's inevitable. Like, things are always passing, but growth is necessary. So it's really up to you if you want to accept growth. And it is only through adversity, trials, and tribulations of life that you're able to really prune yourself in discipline. In organic chemistry, or Orgo 2 here at UNLV, I took it spring 2021, right after one of our relatives passed away due to being at risk of COVID, and it was really hard. And during that time, it was remote instruction, and I tend to do better in person. And so it was really hard, but especially with one of the hardest professors here at UNLV. And in her syllabus, she said 10% of things that happen in life are what we experience. So daily life, people that we encounter, but 90% is how we choose to respond. So at the end of the day, you can blame whoever you want about your life, you can accuse whoever, but at the end of the day, it's your life. Like, you choose to hang out with those people that you associate with, you choose to come to class, you choose to turn in your assignments, because really at the end of the day, you have yourself. And if you don't even love yourself, how can you, love other people? Like, how can you accept a degree that you don't think that you were made fit for? But, at the end of the day, or at the end of whatever, you still show up. And that's the hardest thing to do in this life. You just have to show up for yourself, and you have to do that every day. So if your course is 5 years long, or if it's 4, or if you decide to do in the fast track lane, you have to accept it. Like, this is my state of life right now. I choose to be a full-time student, And so I'm choosing to go to class every day because I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing it for the benefit of my future because no one else is going to do it for me. But most importantly, I'm doing it for my family who has helped shaped me, who has done all of these years of nurturing and taking care of me, that this is where my life is at now. And what more do you do but give back to the own community that raised you? So
I want to open up the floor for questions, but I'm going to ask maybe the panel to kind of discuss ways that they've used navigational capital, which is maneuvering through the system of institutions that historically weren't designed to support communities of color, and then also how you've developed sort of resistance capital and skills and knowledge to push forward.
growing up as a minority, and especially as an Asian American, even in the level of graduate and doctorate school, you already see systemic racism. And my only tip is, if it's not going to be you, who is it going to be? So you have to defend not just yourself, but the rest of the minority community. Like, you have to do it for the Asian American community that didn't have the privilege to grow up in America, who didn't have access to free education. And a personal experience that I had was, since I'm a P1 student, I barely started school in August of this year at Roseman. And so we were fortunate enough to have both the district managers of the Smiths Kroger Corporation or whatever. So both of them came, and it was both a male and female, but they were both white. And so during questionnaire, I asked, like, what are they instilling? Because as managers, like, you are, responsible of all the other employees. I asked, what are you doing to promote racial justice and diversity to the target populations? And you can just see it in their eyes, like, how this system wasn't built for us. Like, how can people just wake up and decide to, like, count us out? And so when they tried answering that question, you could see them stumble, and so the other person has to pick up the weight and try to answer it. And, like, their mission can say whatever, your words can say, oh yeah, we accept racial justice or whatever, we do all this diversity, but it's really through your own actions. And, like, even the nonverbal language, you could see them falter. And so that's why we're here, and that's why you're pursuing an education, especially in post-secondary, to defend us. Like, defend those who have gone before us. If you want to be the change you want to see, you have to do it. And so people, like, we take the oath of pharmacy typically every so often. And so at the end of the lines, there's a couple of lines that say, I do this for the benefit of the future generations of pharmacists. And it was through our school that we were able to tailor that oath of pharmacy to include, like, racial justice, health equity, and all that stuff, but also realizing that we take these vows voluntarily. So now that you're here, what are you going to do about it? Now that you have a degree, how are you going to better enhance not just your life, but the lives of others?
I'm going to maybe, like, since this is the last response from me, Yosso's community cultural wealth was built off of critical race theory. So just an FYI. And one of the original tenets of CRT is that racism is a normal part of US society. And so with that, when I think about navigational and resistance capital, it is how I navigate this US college institution, as well as how, for myself, how I reflect on even the language that I use, right? Like, I actually don't even say that I'm a minority. I say that I'm a racially minoritized and a minoritized person, calling out the active ways in which, systems that we live in, that we kind of are, we forget that we are part of. It's been happening for many years, right? And I study colleges and universities, right? So, like, when we talk about, like, oh, these systems were not built for us, it seems like some ambiguous idea. So when I think about colleges and universities, the first one that was built here in 1636 was Harvard College for white men, middle class, who were preparing for the clergy. So yeah, we were absolutely not. And I think that's important to, like, place it in historical context so that we're not lost in this ambiguity, so that folks so they can get a pass on, like, yeah, like we can, we're committed to this idea of diversity and inclusion and equity and justice, but let us ground it, right? So that's how, for me, the way I try to approach my research, my scholarship, how I try to interact with folks is, let's talk about this, and also let's ground it in scholarship. Let's ground it in like history, so that it's not just a contemporary thing that is happening now. No, it has been happening. People have been advocating and pushing against this for years, right? So I think it's just, for me, as far as like, the capital I bring is like my curiosity, my willingness to learn, my willingness to admit fault if I don't know something, if I name something wrong. It's totally okay.
Both panelists have just spoken, explain it so clearly, and all I gotta add is, because you have all these, be unique. Be unique as a person. We all come from different backgrounds, so why not use your own experience? Use your what got you to this point. Remember that you are unique as a person, and no one can be you. No one can duplicate who you are. So use those experiences to motivate you. Use that to push yourself. No one else is going to do it but you. You are unique and you are here for a reason, so might as well do it. We can all do it.
And just to add on to all what everyone said, like she said, to do it, like even if there are barriers, go out of your way and push through that barrier. Look for the information that you need, even if it's not handed to you on a silver plate, like for some people that do get that privilege. But do it, get out there, even if there's barriers, knock them through, and yeah.
I want to know, what does UNLV's status as an AANAPISI institution mean to each of you? And how do you understand that? And are we meeting the ideals of what that is?
Seeing UNLV have the like the subgroup of AANAPISI, it shows identity, like especially social identity. And like pursuing medicine, it's a white male dominated profession, so we don't really see inclusive, or like it wasn't really tailored towards us. And so with UNLV and attending here previously, and being a part of the Engelstadt Scholars Program and being placed at Spread the Word Nevada, we would go in field per se, like going to the different elementary schools here and giving them free books, like 2 to 3 books, and you would see the demographics, and you see that there's only, like, for me, it would just make my heart wrench, because like I'd only see like 2 or 3 Asians, or like even at most Filipinos. And so it's kind of like, wow, they're not really tailoring our needs in that sense, but they could lose that identity. And so seeing UNLV supporting us, it's like we can relate to them. And even if we can't relate, like, like we come from different backgrounds, we can we can establish that equity instead of like equality. And that's really just like bridging, like creating a standard to where we can see, I can relate to you, or like, oh, because there's other Asian Americans at this school, I'm able to like address the needs. Like they always say, like Asian Americans, we don't really express our emotions. Like especially like growing up, you could hardly see, especially males, they would just toxic masculinity was a thing in our culture, and it's really hard to like address our emotions sometimes. And then sometimes people would address like, oh, why are you sad? You have everything that you need here because you're living in America. Like there's no reason for you to experience anxiety, depression, or like thoughts of taking your own life away, because you're granted all these basic needs. Like you just have to pursue like collegiately and like get a degree, but it's like my emotions are also like a part of me and you have to embrace me. And it's kind of like if a person doesn't acknowledge you, someone else will. So just not forgetting like your sense of dignity and worth. So yeah.
With UNLV being an AANAPISI serving institution, it does mean a lot to me. Like Amanda said, I can relate to much more people. I can identify with much more people, because I'm sure in all other careers as well, in the accounting industry back then, it was all male as predominantly, and it's if you go on to the higher positions, you'll find less and less minority population. You'll only find like the white population as like the highest boss. So it's difficult to get those minority population in the higher status. So being able to get that education while being in an institution that's AANAPISI serving, it's helped me a lot emotionally and mentally, because there's so many people that I could meet and we share the same experiences, immigrants, and just coming from an immigrant family and trying to get yourself established here and working up that career that you want, even if there's not as much a minority population in that field. So it's really helped me emotionally and mentally, and I appreciate that all the opportunities that they given us as students. So yeah, it's really helped me a lot, especially in the field that I want to go into.
For me, it caught my attention when I look at the layout of AANAPISI. I saw Pacific Islander and I said, that's me. That's me. It's not every day that you go to an institution and that's what you see that's been included. And I went to 3 different institutions in California, and I didn't explore much, but it wasn't something that was right there in front of everyone's face. So for UNLV to put out something like this, it's really, really, really crucial for me. And I am passionate now to work around that environment, knowing I can maybe somehow, someday make a difference to those people from my culture, and hopefully get some of them to, or introduce some of them to participate in all those things. How else can other people know that we exist if we're not knocking on the door and keep finding informations? And I look around the room, I said, we're all from different places, but yet we're included in this program. And I think UNLV really encaptured a lot of this. And I have yet to find more about AANAPISI, but I see that it is making a difference in a lot of young people who are finding careers. And I hope to see more. And I would hope to see more of Pacific Islanders participate in this. And I want to find ways to get them to participate, because that will help them. It's a cultural thing that we're so shy. We want things in front of us, but we don't want to talk and get motivated to go find the things. So it's something that I'm passionate and would hope to find more of the Pacific Island community to bring them in.
I'm a little bit biased because minority serving institutions is one of my research interests. So I will respond like this, Kyle. There is potential. So I say that with critical love for UNLV because, I am a proud alum, a product of 3 different kinds of AANAPISIs, and each of them were dual designated AANAPISI and Hispanic Serving Institution, AANAPISI and Native Hawaiian Serving Institution. So Long Beach City College, UNLV were AANAPISI HSI, and then UH Manoa was an AANAPISI Native Hawaiian Serving Institution. And so when I think about, how does UNLV status as an AANAPISI, what does that mean to me? I say potential because of, what I know about the history of what led to this existence of this designation since 2007. This year, it's the 15th anniversary of AANAPISIs. We are one of 199 AANAPISIs across the US. So stats-wise, AANAPISIs are only 6% of all colleges and universities in the US, but they enroll over 40% of all Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander undergraduates in the country. And that's significant, right? So when I say potential, we need to tap into what are the really great things that other AANAPISIs have done. So for me, I'm going to one shout out for ethnic studies. I think that, for UNLV, we need to invest in our ethnic studies units here on campus. Like I think about the 2 full-time faculty, Dr. Mark Padungpat, Dr. Constancio Arnaldo. They are literally the only 2 full-time tenure track faculty that we have at UNLV. I'm pretty sure they have lecturers, but that's not tenure track. And then when I think about our Hispanic Serving Institution designation, I'm going to lift that up too. There is no dedicated tenure track faculty for that, for Latinx studies here at UNLV. So I say there is potential because there is more to be done. But I also, I celebrate being able to walk around campus and see folks who look like me. The fact that we're 70% racially minoritized campus, that's amazing. Now let's see what that looks like at the admin, faculty, and staff level.
Well, Well said. All right. Thank you guys for joining me on this graduate panel discussion. I really do appreciate your contributions to the panel, and we hope to hear an update at some time in the near future about how you're progressing in your graduate studies. So thank you again, and thank you to the audience.